Audible.com is offering a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/SOS-Radio. That's audibletrial.com/SOS-Radio. No dash, listeners.
I'll send an SOS to the world. The blood of the Messiah's flow.
Hello, loyal listeners, and welcome to the SOS-Radio Podcast. All paranormal, all the time. My name is Jason Nhyte, president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, and your host into the unknown. This evening, I'm lucky to have back on the podcast renowned psychic medium Dylan Bell. Listeners might remember Dylan from SOS-Radio Podcast episode 37, live with psychic medium Dylan Bell. We were very impressed with Dylan on that episode. He had some incredible things to say, things he had no prior knowledge of, and I've been waiting to get him back onto the show. It's been a while, but Dylan, please say hello to the listeners.
Hello, listeners. I am glad to be back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. This evening it's just myself and you and myself. No distractions, unlike in episode 37, which turned into the Joe Erie show, which, you know, we tried to explain that in, I believe it was episode 38, the recap episode, why that turned into the Joe Erie show. And we never got a chance to get your take on that episode. What happened, what went down, why it turned into the Joe Erie show, things you picked up on. So I wanted to basically do a Dylan recap from your own words, what took place during that reading session. Of course, you were also joined by Reiki Master Chase Brown, Reiki Master Chase Brown, and the channeled poet, Alex. Forgive me, I forget Alex's last name.
It's Swinghammer.
Swinghammer. Okay, I should remember that. It's really easy to remember. Alex Swinghammer. So you guys all kind of triple-teamed doing readings for myself, Dave Black, and Joe Erie. Mm-hmm. I mentioned on that podcast that I had never been read before. I was actually kind of afraid of it, if you will. Thought it was kind of a bad thing, an evil thing. You certainly dispelled those rumors. You were very professional, very polite, most importantly, extremely accurate on a lot of stuff, but I didn't get a chance to get a reading. So later on in this episode, Dylan's actually going to do a one-on-one reading with myself. So I'm really excited to see what happened now that there's no distractions. So, Dylan, could you tell us a little bit about episode 37 when you read SOS?
Sure. Episode 37, in my opinion, was lots of fun. It was interesting to go to Chicago and meet everyone and just kind of see the energy of Chicago and the people there. And the reason why it turned into the Joe Erie show, because that seems to be the big question why, is Joe was very open that night. He was very excited to meet other intuitives because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of them in his community. And it's just part of his personality. Joe's a very open guy, very warm and welcoming. And when he, I guess, lack of a better word, but vibes with someone, it's easier for him to be open to them. And when it comes to readings, the more open and relaxed the person can be, the better. It's easier for the medium to kind of tap into their energy to be able to pull their loved ones in, I shouldn't say pull, but kind of meet with their loved ones, and kind of communicate with them with that. Also, it was at Joe's house, so with that, we were immersed in Joe's energy, and it was in the basement of his house, and I know he spends a lot of time down in his basement because it's like his lounge area where he watches movies most of the time and things like that.
Right.
So with it being a common area that he sits, obviously the energy is very imprinted there, and it was easier to go into Joe's energy since we were all immersed in that. So even though, Jason, that you were there, you as well were immersed in Joe's energy because you were in his house, in his dwelling, kind of in his sanctuary. And everything about that basement is Joe. Like his corner where he has his trinkets, the art on the wall screams Joe's personality, all the fish tanks.
Yeah, he's got an altar down there pretty much. Like the trinkets, I think, are referring to like the altar area he kind of has set up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Joe's environment, it's Joe's dwelling. So it was easier, and his loved ones were more accessible because they were there. So, and also with his grandmother who actually passed away in the house.
You know, that was, you're right, someone died in that basement. It was his mother-in-law.
Oh, mother-in-law, that's right.
Right, so for listeners who don't know, didn't listen to that episode, his wife's mother actually died in that basement, and there was a lot of lingering questions about that death.
Right. So the way it kind of works is our past loved ones, okay, let me start saying this. Everything is energy, including our souls. So our bodies are just a shell. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So when we pass away, the shell is left in the physical realm because the shell is physical, even though it is energy. But the soul lives on. So your souls of your past loved ones are still around your energy field as well as others' energy field. And since we were in Joe's energy, it was amplified. I think that's probably the best way to put that and explain it, is we were in Joe's energy, so it amplified not only his energy, but also his past loved ones in the room with us.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his grandfather had just, literally passed away like a few days before. So that ties into how, I guess, easy his loved ones were to come forward at that time.
Right.
In the house where the death took place, were seeped in Joe Erie's energy, and his grandfather had just recently passed.
Right. And sometimes it depends on the soul whenever they just pass. I typically like to wait about 6 months before a reading occurs for that soul. However, if during a setting where reading a recent loved one does come forward, then I know that that soul's ready to communicate and kind of share what they have to say and make contact. So since that soul had, I don't want to say necessarily a peaceful passing, because honestly I don't really remember the reading that much, and that's normal for me because it's not for me, it's for others. So since that soul had a peaceful passing, or an easier transition, we'll say, because they knew they were going to pass over, then that showed me that the soul was also more ready. Now, I have been giving readings recently where people were murdered, and it was a sudden, unexpected,
wow.
And it was a little more difficult to bring some of those souls in because they were still transitioning into spirit. They didn't know they were going to die. Their soul and higher self knew, but their ego did not. And even though when we die we don't have our ego, we still hold energy of our personality and our ego. That's why as a medium I'm able to connect into that person and be like, oh, this person was very stern, but they were very loving as well, but they came across very stern more so. Or, oh, this father figure wasn't very prominent in someone's life. it's because they hold parts of their personality energy-wise still on the other side for mediums to be able to convey and validate that, yes, we for sure have them, I'll say, on the line or a connection with them. So yeah, it can get a little tricky depending on the soul and how they passed. Now, if it's a soul that had cancer or something like that, especially when they know that they're terminally ill, they have those few months to already accept the fact that they are going to cross over. So it's a lot of times those souls are the ones that come forward because they already had known that was coming. So it's easier for them to transition. Plus, a lot of times when people have cancer, I know my grandfather passed from cancer. He, even though he was physically here, he wasn't fully coherent, and he was mumbling things to the other side. He was just kind of talking to them, and actually an hour before he passed, very clearly, he said, well, who's all up there? And he wasn't talking to anyone here on this earthly plane. He was talking to divine source and past loved ones that he was about to reunite with. And his last words before his dying breath was heaven, 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 and he was gone. Just talking about it always gives me chills. But that shows that when the dying process is drawn out and they go into that transition period, even though they're still physically here, they are transitioning. That's a lot of times why they stop communicating, or they just mumble things to themselves and it looks like they're trying to talk, but really they're talking to the other side already. It's literally there, an open veil for them to start going through.
It's so weird you're mentioning this. We were recording a podcast last night. I actually interviewed my mother. It was my genesis story into the paranormal. How did I get, because that's one of the first questions I always get when I tell people about what I do. How did you get into it? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring the person responsible for me getting into the paranormal onto the show, and it wound up being just probably one of the best interviews I've ever had, just, freestyling with my mom. But we were talking about this power gift, if you will, that the Eastern European women in my family have. And we were talking about my great-grandmother, who would receive, right before people in my family would die or close family friends would pass away, they would come visit my great-grandmother in dreams. And then she would wake up the next morning and tell somebody, hey, so-and-so just came to visit me, and, that morning they passed, or the next day they passed, or even, sometimes in the very short future, they would expire. And they would come visit her, let her know everything's okay, this is what's happening, and then she would relay the message to the rest of the family, get ready, this is going to happen. And when she was on her deathbed, when my great-grandmother was passing, she was having conversations with people in the room that no one else saw, past, her sisters that passed 50 years ago. And she would talk to them, and people would say, Bushi, who are you talking to? And I don't remember the sisters' names. I never met them. But, so-and-so, they're standing right there. What's the matter? You can't see them? What's wrong with you? They're standing right there, in the corner of the hospital room. And, we believe they were the ushers coming to take her away.
Absolutely. And another good example of that is I've given readings where, in my clairvoyance and my third eye, I've seen from that soul's perspective. And I'm able to tell people, okay, you were sitting by the hospital bed holding their hand, and you gave them a kiss on the forehead. And the soul saw you, even though their physical body was still laying there. Their soul was already kind of astral projecting. They were already out of body, watching you by their body. So souls are definitely very conscious of what's going on, especially when people are crossing over. They definitely can see through the veil 100%.
Wow. All right, so that kind of explains why it became the Joe Erie Show, and I think that needed to be done. Before we continue with the rest of the episode, I'm curious on your take of your reading with Dave Black. Now, you don't have to be embarrassed or afraid to say anything because he doesn't listen to the show anyway. So Dave Black, the constant skeptic, the Scully, pisses us off all the time. But it's part of our energy having Dave in this group. So when you attempted to read him, you only got so far, and much like me, it turned to Joe Erie. What were your impressions of Dave Black when you attempted to read him?
Well, honestly, it's never my responsibility to prove myself to anyone. So since he was a skeptic, that was the last thing on my mind. I could really care less because it's never my intention to, I have to prove the skeptics wrong. It's my main motive is let me give you healing and validating messages from your past loved ones that they are okay. And that's just always my intention, and that opens the door for them to bring the validating messages that I would never know. So if I remember correctly, since I was very connected that night,
yeah.
Everything's a little foggy, I do believe he had someone start to come forward, and some things made sense to him, but then I call it gate crashing. And it's where another soul will step forward that's stronger, or stronger energy will come forward and they'll gate crash. And then they'll start giving me their validations and information. And then that soul kind of does their own thing, or can take a step back. So I do believe I was gate crashed when I started reading him. I started bringing someone forward, and then I felt another energy step forward that was also female, and she started giving me the validations, and that turned out to be the mother-in-law that actually died in the house.
Absolutely.
And again, it had to do with we were in Joe's energy, Joe's space. She passed away in that house, so when a female stepped forward, she saw her opportunity, and she was like, hold up, back up.
Yeah, you got stonewalled. And that's when, like you said, the mother-in-law made herself known. It was crazy. Right. It was crazy.
Yeah, it can go two ways. It can go where I'm sitting in the room, possibly, say I am reading someone and they're friends with them. If the person I'm reading isn't open enough and or they don't have an intention set strongly, not saying an expectation or an expectation, that's not saying that they have those, but if their intention isn't strong enough, sometimes I'll have their friend who's sitting with them, their past loved one, come and gate crash because they're like, okay, there's more of a connection here. Or I'll be reading someone and I'll be talking to their aunt, and next thing we know, their dad is coming through because he has something to say, and he kind of gate crashes that way. The second way it can happen is I'll be reading someone, and that person will say, I'm not alone. And anytime I have a soul on the other side say I'm not alone, that means that there is at least a few other souls or one other soul with them that they can help bring forward. So sometimes the souls do come forward, and then they'll say, I'm not alone, and then they'll help the other soul make a stronger connection and kind of help them navigate and or amplify their energy to help push them forward to better communicate. I do believe the longer that the soul is on the other side, the easier it is for them to communicate because they've been in spirit longer. So that's just, I guess, how it is, and that's how it operates with me as a medium.
So interesting. Really so interesting. You definitely turned a believer out of us. Even you could listen to the recap episode. Even Dave Black said that. No, I do think he's the real deal, and that says something.
Yeah.
So that's why I couldn't wait to have you back on. I'm sure listeners might want to know, Dave Black, energy, positive or negative? What did you feel?
Oh, because.
Yeah, okay, that's answer. That's an answer.
No, that's not an answer.
Okay.
He has good energy. However, he likes to put up a front of pardon my French, but of a hard ass or very logical. And that's okay. That's who he is. There's no shame in that at all. But he is very genuine, and he does have a heart for people. He just doesn't necessarily show it. He doesn't necessarily have his heart on his sleeve like Joe does. He's kind of the polar opposite of Joe, energetic. But his intention and all that is good. He doesn't mean any harm. He just wants things to make sense, and whatever his ego or brain or logic has to do to make sense of it, then that's what he needs. And I think he's a good guy. I got to talk to him a little bit after the podcast, and then after we went to dinner, I got to sit and talk to him, and he's a very genuine guy. It just takes a bit to get people to see past the wall that he puts up, or for him to let that wall down to let people in, because he just doesn't allow anyone and everyone in.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt description of him. So keep him around?
Oh, yeah.
Keep him around. Done. All right, Dave, you're safe. I would like to know what you've been up to lately. It's been a little while since we talked. I know you got some cool things going on. What's Dylan been up to lately?
Well, clientele is building. I think it was after the podcast, probably a month or two after, I was actually let go from my corporate job. But I will take the responsibility for that because I challenged Spirit. And I read the book, The Power. It's part of the series of The Secret. And after reading that book, I just told Spirit, I said, I need a very clear and without a shadow of a doubt indication that I'm supposed to be doing readings full time. And after I set that intention, I walked into work one Monday, and there was just different energy in work, and Spirit told me that I was going to be let go very soon. I was going to be, I guess, fired, but they said I was just being let go. Fired is more of a harsh way of putting it.
Right, yeah.
So I called my friend and I said, hey, Spirit is telling me that I'm going to be let go, and I feel it's coming at some point this week. And with that, I said, if this happens, I'm going to start writing my book and really doing readings full time and building a steady clientele. And sure enough, 2 days later, it was on a Wednesday, about an hour before my shift was over, I got called in with my boss in the HR, and my boss said, Dylan, I'm sorry to tell you, but we're letting you go. It's just not a good fit. And then also the rumor on the street was the company I worked for was downsizing anyway, because the other company we worked for was starting to hire people internally to do the jobs that we were doing. So they were needing to adjust anyway. So they said that it was not a good fit, and they just kind of didn't give me any other information than that. And I took that as Spirit very clearly indicating. I do want to say whenever they told me that, I smiled real big, and there was a burden lifted off my shoulders and my soul. And my boss actually took it harder than I did. She started crying.
Wow.
And when I left the office, as I was boxing my stuff up, she walked out of her office, peered into my working space, started tearing up again, and put her head down and just started walking away. And she even told me before that happened, she said, follow your heart with the energy healing and with the readings that you do, because that's where your heart is and that's where you're supposed to be. And she said, I'm going to be okay. And I said, oh, I know I'm going to be okay. And then that was that. So, long story short, I got in my car, I called a few people and told them that I was very excited. Doors are opening. This is really what I'm supposed to do. Spirit gave me about a month or two to just kind of get my ducks in a row and kind of rejuvenate, because the corporate world has always been pretty nasty to me. And it's like I'm an alien here on Earth that doesn't fit into that realm. Is the best way I can.
A lot of people would agree with you.
Yeah. So with that, I was just very excited. I listened to Spirit, and they said just take it easy, and we'll start sending things and opportunities your way. So since then, my friends opened their healing center back up, and I'm the primary medium and card reader for them.
Why don't you go ahead and give us that information so people could check you out? Sure.
It's called Celestial Dawning, and it is a healing center that they focus on aura photography, but they also have other holistic ways. So Rachel's one of the owners, and she does Reiki as well as tuning forks, chakra balancing, spirit photos, and aromatherapy. She's really into the aromatherapy, and then she also makes oil blends that help people with digestion, health, or insomnia, things of that sort. So it's completely holistic, and our goal there is to build a center. She'll be finishing her degree sometime next year in alternative medicine, I think it is. It will be her second master's, and she will be collaborating ideally with doctors in the Indianapolis area to where they can send their patients to help them with holistic ways of healing, but it won't replace the doctor's orders. They'll still be doing what the doctor says and taking that medicine. However, if they want to try another avenue, then they can. So say for my realm as a medium, if someone's going to a grief counselor because they lost Aunt Sally, then they could potentially say, okay, we're working with this healing center. If you're open to it, there's a medium. Maybe he can help you get some closure.
That's incredible.
They would come to the center and meet with me, and I would do a reading, and ideally I would be able to connect with their past loved one and give them closure in a different way and try to help them heal the grief and that through validating and healing messages from their past loved one. But yeah, that's the dream for the center, and we're looking to knock out a wall and expand by next year as long as the clients are there. And we really do believe that's going to grow and happen for us.
That's excellent. So here you are doing it full time, living your dream.
Absolutely.
And I wish everyone could say that they're living their dream. That's excellent, Dylan.
I will say it's not as easy as what people think. I've definitely had to put the work into it.
Well, you and I were, and I'm afraid I'm opening a can of worms here, but it was just such an interesting conversation you and I had, and we'll keep it as brief as possible. But part of that hard work you were putting into launching yourself to do this full time, you were in a psychic war almost. Is that something we can talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that something we can talk about quickly?
Yeah.
Because it was an incredible story. Okay, tell us about this psychic war.
Can you give me some reference which one you're talking about?
Oh, there's been many.
Wait, talking about the Saturday.
Well, it was the people who were coming in. They were putting like spells on your guys' location to disrupt business, to disrupt energy, and you guys were kind of battling it out in the energy realm, if you will. Sure,
absolutely. So with that, the center owners have some history with one of Rachel's past mentors who, when she started opening up, he took her under her wing and started helping her develop, and things weren't sitting right with her. It just seemed very off, very negative energy. It didn't seem like he was of light and love, in other words. So she walked away from him, and they actually had a center before this one where he would send people to check their center out and just kind of spy on them. And we had one come in at the new center. As far as I know, there's only been one. And actually that night, their daughter was energetically attacked. We call it a psychic attack. And children are very open and vulnerable. And she was out of body. It took us 30 minutes to 40 minutes to get her back in to this realm. And even when she was waking up, she was slipping right back out. So I had to call one of my friends who's a spiritual warrior. And she came over, and it took the four of us. The parents were just very concerned about their daughter and was very upset. But it took Chase, Alex, Jazz, and I to finally fight this off. The child spiked a fever of 103, which was odd. And so ideally when we all went to meditation around the little girl, Jazz and Alex went to kind of fight off this negative energy. I went into the astrals to find this little girl's astral self and tell her, you need to get back in the body and you need to drop the fever. And then Chase, as a shaman, went into her underworld, as shamans do, and that's not saying he went into like hell or anything. He just went into her underworld to kind of give tools and help with energy as well. And after it was all said and done, it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and the fever finally dissipated, and she started sleeping like her normal self, because before she was twitching and moaning in her sleep, which was very unusual. She's normally very like a rock sleeping.
Was she able to be woken up? I mean, how did you guys know her spirit, she was out of body? How do you know she was gone?
Because her parents in the beginning were kind of shaking her, not like violently, but you know when you're trying to wake someone up, just kind of like rubbing their shoulder, and she wasn't responding. She was still twitching and moaning, and Rachel's an intuitive herself, so she was able to feel as well as mother instincts that something was not right. So you could just feel it. It got very thick and heavy, and
wow.
We were able to dispel that, I guess is the way to say that. And then the next day I took a nap, and I travel a lot in my sleep, and I was charmed, I guess you can say, is how I would like to think of it, to where they put me in a room with my partner, and my partner was being very nasty, and they were playing on a lot of my insecurities from my past, as well as past issues that my partner I have had. And it was just very strange. And I remember in the dream it felt so real. I got up off the couch that we were sitting on, and I walked down a hallway in this unfamiliar place, and I saw a shadow cross, and it scared me. And I've never been scared of seeing a shadow. And in the dream I took off running, and I actually fell and tumbled because I took off that fast. And the person who was appearing to be my partner in this charm was literally laughing, and it was a malicious, nasty laugh.
Dude, I literally got the goosebumps just now. I swear to God.
So
okay.
I pretty much told them, like, I'm not doing this, it's over, because I thought it was real. It was, I've never experienced anything like this. It was very real and strange, and I felt like it was actually happening. So I went into the master bedroom again in this unfamiliar place, because it wasn't where I thought I was. And this person charming to be my partner went into the bathroom to shower and all that as I'm packing up, which was very unusual and weird. But as I was finishing up packing, they finished and went back on the couch. And then it dawned on me in this charm, this is not my partner. This is not where we live. And I was able to break it. And I went out in there, and it sounds funny, but I said, you're not Alex, and he wouldn't be home for another umpteen hours. And I said, and until then, we're watching what I want to watch. And I grabbed the remote to the TV in the dream, and I symbolize that as me taking back control.
Right.
Because the controller to the TV controls the volume and channel and all that. So I took that back, and as soon as I took it back, the person appearing to be Alex disappeared out of nowhere, and I was left in the dream kind of puzzled. And that's when my protector guide Riff came in, and he showed me that he has wings and all that, but we'll get into that in a different time. But he wrapped around me, and he said I couldn't get to you because it was so strong, and he said that I was able to break it on my own. And I heard the words, "I'm proud of you," and then I came out of it. So then I started talking to Rachel through text, and she said, "Oh my gosh, can you tell me who it was?" And as a medium, I'm not very good at getting names. Typically, I can just get the first letter, but I'm working on developing that more.
Okay.
And I closed my eyes and went into meditative state, and I actually got the names of people, and I was telling her these names through text, and she texted back and said, "Oh my fucking God." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Those are the exact names of the people." And so I was able to go back into meditation, tap into their energy, and put them in a bubble of light and love, and just send them on their way. And ever since I've done that, and that we've done that, we haven't had any issues.
So instead of retaliating and throwing some nasty curse at them, you enveloped them in light and love and sent them off.
Absolutely.
It's such a crazy story, man.
Called in archangels to help protect us in that realm of things. That way, if they did continue to try to do black magic or witchcraft or whatever for the bad, it would go right back to them tenfold. That's what I kind of asked the archangels to do, and like I said, we haven't had any issues at all. So
great story. So this stuff, I mean, it's real. Listeners got to understand, this stuff is real. People can do harm to you in non-physical ways.
Absolutely.
Man, we're going to have you back because just that story could go down so many roads.
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners would just be dying to hear. So good. I'm glad the little girl's okay. I'm glad you're out there doing your thing full time.
Yeah.
Just want to say here your contact information. It is Opal's Truth. That's OPALSTRUTH @gmail.com. Opal's Truth @gmail.com. And opalstruth.com. Best ways to get a hold of you?
Would be the website, and then if you just Google Opal's Truth, all my platforms will pop up. So they can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I have a Twitter, but I don't really use it that much anymore. It's just not my friend. But yeah, definitely Facebook is the other best way compared to the website.
Okay, and it is Opal's Truth on Facebook, correct?
Yes.
Okay, listeners, I highly recommend you go out, contact Dylan, get a reading. I know he says he's not out there to prove his abilities to anybody, but you won't be disappointed. So please go out and do that. As per usual with the SOS-Radio Podcast, I like to have the guest choose a break song. So we're going to go to break, see what Dylan has chosen for us. And as soon as we come back, I'd like to roll right into my own personal reading with psychic medium Dylan Bell. We'll be back in a moment. are back. That was Hello from Adele. Thank you for choosing the song, Dylan. Listeners, hopefully you enjoyed that clip. Without further ado, I would like to get into my own personal reading with Dylan Bell. Dylan, what do I need to do here? Well, I just want to let the listeners know this is a Skype session. We are not together in the same room. We're not going to be touching, holding hands, sitting around a table. We're doing this over the net, which when I saw you in the very beginning, before we even talked or set anything up, I saw you on YouTube interviewing this famous YouTube guy or reading a famous YouTube guy. And I was like, wow, that's really strange. He could do it over the net. Anything you want to say about that before we begin?
It goes back to everything's energy. So even though we're not physically together, I can still tap into you remotely and access past loved ones and also your energy as well. I typically don't do this unless the person gives me the permission to do so. So I don't want people thinking that I'm just going to randomly just start tapping into them.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I also want to mention you wanted to sage your immediate surroundings before starting this. Could I ask why?
Yeah, it's just to help clear out any stagnant energy in my studio and my house, and then also neutralize my own energy in my own space. That way I can pull your energy in more accurately, and it just gives me space to distinguish the different energies.
Okay, great, fair enough. Thank you for explaining. Okay, I guess let's do it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So with that, I'm just gonna have you kind of close your eyes, even though I can't see you.
I'm doing it, I promise.
Close your eyes and just inhale or breathe in through your nose. Let it sit for 3 seconds. And then exhale through the mouth. And we're just going to do that a few times, and I'm actually going to join you doing that. Okay. And the reason why we do that is it kind of gets me in the space of doing this work, as well as gets you in a relaxed state to where it's easier to tap in. I do want to say I think I have a pretty strong connection with you, because as we were doing that, I started getting very airy in my head, and that shows me that I am connecting remotely, or if the person's here still connecting in. So I always like to give people kind of how this is going to go down. That way you understand, and we're not trying to play a guessing game or anything like that. That way you have an understanding of how this is going to work, but it's also my opening for my guides to start stepping forward, knowing that we are about to work as well.
Okay.
So with that, I use clairvoyance and clairaudience to clearly see images and then also clearly hear information from your past loved ones, as well as clairsentience, which is where they're going to show me on my body and different chakra points how they passed, and they'll give me different feelings in the same chakra, and then that's just how I know how to translate it. For instance, if I say my heart's very heavy, It's almost as if I'm still grieving this person. It shows that it was very hard to lose that person. Or they could literally give me like a hiccup in my heart, and that shows me a heart attack or something of that sort. As far as signs and symbols go, for instance, if I see a horse, if that doesn't resonate with you directly, of that person owning horses, then that is my sign and symbol for take action now, as well as they have been set free from the addictions that they had, because horses mean freedom for me.
Okay.
So are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Okay. And it does sometimes takes time to really distinguish things. So I have a female stepping forward. She is showing me the throat chakra. Anytime I feel the throat chakra, it means they couldn't communicate at the end of their passing, and or it happened sudden or quick. A lot of times when people commit suicide and or were murdered, they show the throat because it happened quick and unexpectedly. But I don't feel anyone was murdered or suicide related to this. That's just an example.
Okay.
But I do feel that it was either unexpected and or they had trouble communicating at the end and things were left unsaid. So there's some things that need to be communicated with that. Give me a second here. I do feel that this person has an older energy about them, as if they're a grandmother. And let's see. They seem very, personality-wise, stubborn.
Okay.
Okay, and now they're touching me from the chest and then also the heart, the heart or chest, but also the upper torso. So I feel like there's a connection to the heart and lungs with this.
Okay.
As I close my eyes again, I was shown a shirt that's long-sleeved. For me, it's almost as if they had their favorite shirt, but also it was long sleeve shirt indicating that they were always cold. It didn't matter if it was like summertime or winter, they always liked the long sleeves because they got chilly.
Okay.
Okay. I was asking them if they could show me indications about their appearance, and they told me that they were short, almost as if they were not necessarily petite, but they were shorter. And then they also started giving me the impression as if I was drifting out, and this was happening in my head as I was feeling airy. And that's oftentimes a symbol of dementia, Alzheimer's, and or some type of mental illness as well.
Okay.
I don't know if this person had a hard time walking, but I'm feeling a lot of emphasis on the legs, specifically the right leg and the right foot.
Okay.
So is this ringing?
It's really hard at this point to tell. There's certain things you mentioned about, and it could be two people. Legs, no. Walking, no. But yeah, it's hard for me to tell who it might be at this point.
Okay. Give me just a few more.
I feel like, is it okay if I feel like if it was the one person who I was thinking of in my mind as you were trying to dial in, I feel that they would have given me more clear characteristics of themselves, because there were a couple things that were very unique about this person.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also mentioned dementia and Alzheimer's, and that completely brings in somebody else. So I'm torn between two people at this point.
Are they both females?
They are, yes.
Okay, they could be coming in together. So let me ask for only one of them to step forward. I do know that one of them is stepping forward from Mom's side, and that's what they brought forward for me.
Okay.
I'm hesitant to say that only because during the podcast you did bring up your mom's side and the ladies and the Eastern European, but that is just me letting my ego get away. It doesn't mean that she's not coming through.
Okay.
I just didn't want people feeling like I was manipulating or using that information.
Understood.
So let me focus in on this person. Is one of the people that you're thinking of on your mom's side?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me focus in on that energy and just ask her to step forward more. Okay. So she is showing me, and like I said, I'm terrible with names, and I don't know what the connection is, but I was being shown a big bold L, so the letter L, related to this, but also she's showing me eyes, and they're a blue, like a blue eye, and then also she's wanting to reference that there's some gray connected with that, almost as if they're glassy eyes. Does that make sense?
So do you want me to confirm things or refute things? Are you asking, or do I shut up?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can communicate with me, just don't give me answers.
Right, so the eyes, that was one of the clues I was looking for.
Uh-huh.
When I had mentioned I feel this person would really hone in on other characteristics, blue-gray eyes is, I mean, that's spot on. You couldn't be any... Her eyes is what... It would just magnetized everybody, was her eyes. And there was a couple other few characteristics, but I mean, that's validation right there. L, no correlation I can think of with L.
Okay, so what I always do with that is it can be a miss, but I always ask you to take it and think on it. And then maybe in the next few hours, as you think back on this reading, or a day or two from now, you'll realize, oh, that's the L connection. But no worries there. Kind of like with Joe, he had a few things that he was unsure about, and then they popped up after. She is referencing me and giving me the feeling that you... Alright, give me... She gave me the feeling as if you guys were fairly close. Not necessarily that you don't know a lot about her or things of that sort, but she is saying that you guys did have an understanding and a connection, almost as if there was a bond there. It's not like it was someone that you would only see every now and then, but it was, you picked right back up from where you guys left off.
100%.
Okay, good. So she, just to let you know, is primarily communicating with me with clairvoyance, so showing me signs and symbols, but also clairsentience. Now, clairsentience, I know said sometimes goes with the body, but sometimes it just goes with emotional feeling. So I'm going to have to redirect my energy to tap into the way that she's wanting to communicate. Did she used to watch you?
No.
Okay. She did mention, and I don't know, this is kind of funny, I've never seen this before, but she did show me a toothbrush or something along that line and reference that you had one where she lived or dwelled. So So I wasn't sure if that means you would stay the night and you would have a toothbrush, or that's kind of an off-the-wall validation. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know
why that's coming forward. Sometimes they bring forward odd things. Alright, make the validations more clear, please. Things that Jason are going to understand. I do feel like there's things with the left side of this person's body. They're giving a lot of energy to that, and I know that's my female side, but it's showing me that it's different from that, as if there were, I don't know if she's mentioning complications, more specifically on the face, left side of the face. Nope, we don't want you. We want the mom side. Okay, and this person is referencing that, I don't know if a conversation just recently came up about her, that you were kind of sharing memories about her, whatnot, but she is giving me the impression of you were just thinking about her within the past probably week or two, kind of missing her, thinking, okay, what would she say about this? Or a memory, something sparked your memory of her.
We were just recording a podcast last night. I mentioned earlier about that I had my ma as a guest, and we were talking about her pretty extensively, and I was saying, man, I wish my kids had a chance to meet her, and blah, blah. So, yeah, I mean, just yesterday.
Okay. I keep getting the other lady coming forward. She keeps trying to gate crash, and I have to tell her, like, back up, this is not your time. I have to sort them out. I do still feel a heart and lung connection, so I don't know if that's related to the lady on mom's side or if it's the other one that keeps trying to come forward. Can you validate and pinpoint that so I can differentiate the energy?
Yeah, so the person on my mom's side was heart failure.
Okay.
The other person, I do not know what the official cause was.
Okay, that's fair. So that's good. Now I know whenever she's poking my heart that I have the right one.
Yeah.
Okay, she's giving me the feeling as if her hands were kind of uneven, as in, that's not a good way to explain it. They were kind of shaky. They weren't always sturdy.
Okay.
Again, she's referencing the right or the left side with that. That's the hand that started kind of moving for me. I
don't remember.
That's okay. Don't have to remember right now. I simply just give people what I'm getting. Is there a B connection?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Is there a B connection?
B, as in boy. None that I could think of.
Okay. She keeps wanting to bring forward B. I keep seeing that letter over and over.
Well, I guess maybe. I don't know in what capacity. She's trying to make it a point to be like, hey, but a B could be relevant now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay. I do feel that the B is connected to a name, and for some reason I keep hearing sun, so I don't know if there's a sun energy connected to that. I don't know if it could be your son or one of her sons, but I do feel it's related to a name, and it's within the bloodline.
All All right, so that takes out who I thought it was.
Okay, not a problem.
But it's interesting because there is somebody with extreme significance with a B, but it's not bloodline. And you mentioned sons, my son, not female, not male.
Okay. I keep getting hot flashes with this. So anytime I get hot flashes, it means two things. It either means that the person was cremated, or the person that I'm reading, so you, sometimes experience heat for no reason, and that's the soul's way of showing that they are around.
No.
Okay. I'm not sure why, but I keep getting hot pulses. I do feel that there is a connection to... I'm starting to get in my head about this. This is not clear, and I don't know who, but they're referencing their hair. They were wanting their hair to look nice. So I don't know if this person living worried about their hair, or if there was something about the funeral arrangements that they were wondering if she liked what they did with her hair.
Okay. Yeah, that's a validation point.
Okay.
That is. Anything else about hair or anything? Because it's funny, because the two validation points I was looking for this person were the hair and the eyes.
Right. Now, what was going on with the hair on the left side?
I don't know, but she always had these wild kind of like buns in her hair. Her hair was always done up like high, kind of. She just had very distinct hairstyle,
Right.
and very long hair. She took pride in her hair and stuff, but she always had these extravagant like buns on her head made out of her hair, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But as far as left side, I don't know.
You're not sure, because that's where whenever I referenced the left side of the face, I was feeling it in my hair. It was weird. I've never experienced that, so I don't know if she had, like, some people have that gray patch, or like if she had some type of significance to the left side of the head around the hair. Now, is she the one that wore the long sleeves? She was typically chilly.
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I don't really remember ever seeing her in short sleeves. So yeah, I'm thinking yes.
Okay. And I'm going back through the validations that we've had now that we have a more clear distinction. Is she the shorter one? Or she was more petite?
They were, she was short, yes.
Okay.
Normal size, but shorter.
Right. And I do feel that she is the one that had the firecracker personality, to where...
Oh, man.
She was, like, stubborn as a mule about some things that just had to be done this way, is what I'm getting with her.
Absolutely, 100%.
Not everything, but she was very stubborn. I
like the way you use the word firecracker, because, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she's showing me that she was very energetic here on this physical plane. She was kind of, I guess, a loudmouth, I guess. She had her tendencies where she could be very loud.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right, and she had a very distinctive, I don't know if she's referencing voice or a laugh, but as soon as you heard it, you knew she was around.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think we're starting to get a stronger connection. Let's see. And this is a grandmother figure, correct? So grandma?
No.
No. Who is she?
She would be my great aunt.
Okay. Okay. But from mom's side?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, because the other one is a grandmother from my father's side.
Yeah,
Who
I
had
didn't know the grandmother was from mom's side.
Yeah.
I did have grandmother. So.
Yeah, so this person was my great aunt on my mom's side. The other person that you said kept trying to step through could have been grandmother on father's side.
Mm-hmm. So great aunt, let's see, still trying to connect in. So she's wanting to reference your kids. Just saying that, and I know you're sensitive about this coming up, but just saying that she is with them. I do feel like there is a son, yes? You have a son.
Yes.
Okay, because she is referencing that he has had experiences where he's felt her around, but I don't know if he's also in sports or sporting events, but she's kind of showing me that scenario where he is playing sports and she is watching. She is very much still active with the upkeep of his growing up.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is just him playing or why she's showing me sports, but that is what I'm seeing. It could just be the way the soul is choosing to show that scenario that she is around and validating that as well.
Okay.
I do feel that this person was part of a congregation of a church. If it's not her, it could be grandma. But I am about to transition into someone else.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to put the great aunt kind of on hold, and then also bring grandmother forward. Okay. So as I'm connecting into the grandmother, she seems more timid. She's not as, I guess I would not use the term firecracker with her. She seems more soft-spoken and I don't know if timid's the right word, but almost polar opposite from this great aunt. She doesn't seem like she was very loud or anything of that sort.
I would say that's true.
Okay. She seems more of a laid-back energy, because I've definitely felt, now that I've been able to get the personality from the great aunt, I can tell the difference between their energies more so. And she seems more laid-back, more just calm. I don't know if there's a connection to planes. With grandma, I don't know if her husband was Air Force or if she was scared of planes, but I did see very clearly kind of a plane in the sky going by.
Wow, that one I don't know.
Okay. It might be something you want to look into. Grandma is showing me a very distinctive smell with her. Almost as if it's more floral based, like perfume wise. But but she is mentioning that there was a smell or a distinctive smell attached to this person.
Ooh, okay. What else are you getting?
I feel like she could have been the one with the hand. That wasn't necessarily steady, but also kind of, I don't want to use the word crippled, because she could still use it, but it was hard. Maybe arthritis for it. What's that called? Where the knuckles tend to swell up.
Is that carpal tunnel?
I thought that was wrist. This is like literally, I'm seeing a hand that's kind of, I don't want to use the word crippled because she could use it, but it was harder for her to use it.
Yeah, see, that I don't remember that.
Were you younger when she was around?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She's not really wanting to communicate much. She's holding true to her very, like, quiet, timid self. She's not wanting to... She's harder to connect with than your aunt. I'll say that.
Okay.
And that's okay, because sometimes that's just the personality of the person. She's just kind of more of the mind my own business, I'm in my own little world, than the I'm going to go talk to that stranger and just strike a conversation with them.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even really feel comfortable really digging into that because I'm not getting a lot there. I just know that she's present, and she did show me a plane, so I don't know
It's
if
weird.
there's family history in that or not. If I was to take the plane symbolically, it shows that there's travels and or a vacation coming up for you.
That's true.
Okay. So she could just be validating that as she knows what you're up to.
It's weird, that flower smell that you mentioned, flower perfume or something, that made me start leaning somewhere else. Planes and flower perfume, that made me start leaning to another person. Strange, but the personality traits don't match up.
Right. I know that the people that are coming forward are primarily female. I'm not feeling much male energy on the other side coming through. You might not remember this, but, and maybe this is referencing to who you were talking about with the plain and floral perfume, but I feel that this person was hospitalized whenever they were in their transition period. Not necessarily hospice, but they were hospitalized. And they showed me this almost as if there were machines around them and they were laying in bed.
Okay.
I do feel like there was something helping them breathe. I don't know if they were on life support or what that means, because again, I don't oftentimes see people in the hospital clairvoyantly with this. I'm going to let that cat out because it's gonna... So that might be something for you to ask about your
Right.
grand, if if you can ask your mom or parents or anything.
Definitely.
I don't know who is bringing this forward, but I am getting the color red. So I don't know if Grandma liked red things or if this is about you. But red for me shows root chakra. It's all about stability in life, food, water, shelter, things of that sort. But red can also, I feel it's taking the opposite effect. It's taking on stress, obviously, but more so I'm getting more of an anger vibe to it, or frustration with that. So I don't know.
And that could apply to the person or myself?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting much from this grandmother connection.
Okay.
It's fairly, I guess, weak. I mean, I can tell it's there, but it's not a strong one.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay? I'm going to bring the great aunt forward here, just so we can do the message portion with that.
Okay.
Okay. The great aunt is referencing the throat chakra, but it's in a different light when I transition into the message portion. It's her asking you to communicate more, but also know when to listen to what is being said.
Communicate with her herself?
Just in general.
Oh.
Okay.
That hits home. She's referencing 5. So I don't know if the number 5 comes in. She's giving me the reference as if it's in a timeline, so I don't know if this is 5 days or a month of 5 or a day of 5. Okay.
So maybe hold on to that, but I do feel that there's 5 there. Now, numerology-wise, 5 for me means freedom. Just like horses, 5 is the numerology of freedom with that. So she could be referencing that as you communicate and listen, it's going to free up some of that stress or frustrations, and it's going to allow clear communication to come into play.
Okay.
I don't know if you go on walks or if you have a park you can go walk in, but she is referencing tree branches, so I'm not sure where that comes into play, other than spend some time near trees in nature, or even where trees are. But these tree branches are almost as if they're fallen out of the tree.
What does that mean?
Well, if I was to take it symbolically, that would just be kind of spending time in nature and enjoying that. I don't really have a meaning for a tree branch on, like, falling out of a tree.
Okay.
She is saying to, want me to communicate this. You can edit this part out if it's too personal, but she is showing me and telling me to have you keep loving your wife and be patient with them as well.
Okay.
Okay, so did she like to eat, or because the way I want to explain this is she's giving me a connection to food as if there was a favorite meal. Okay, and I don't know how she's referencing this. I don't know if that is something you guys talked about yesterday and or you had one of your favorite meals, or if it lines up with okay, so if I was to take a meal symbolically, like your favorite meal, that for me is kind of like a treat yourself. Okay, do something, eat your favorite food, do something to kind of treat yourself and just indulge. That's how I take it symbolically.
Okay.
I think that's all I'm getting.
Okay.
Yeah, not much as far as messages go with that. But yeah.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to return them back, and hopefully that went well.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. I really want my ma to listen to this as well, because there's some things you might be saying that she'd be like, stupid, that's what he's talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just not catching it, but there was some stuff there that was pretty relevant, pretty spot on.
Cool.
Just knowing herself, her personality, I thought she would have been more boisterous, more, throwing stuff at you, bombarding you, but I guess that doesn't always work that way.
Doesn't. Not necessarily, no. And sometimes it just depends on the day with the medium. And this isn't anything bad, and it's not me making excuses, but Alex and I have been on the go since Thursday, like nonstop, and we haven't even been getting full night's sleeps. So, it could just be me and my energy not being fully where it needs to be. So I do apologize about that if that is the case.
No.
But as soon as you reached out and said, hey, do you want to meet on Skype? I was like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming back and doing this. I enjoyed it.
Good. Yeah.
Now, once again, if people wanted to get a hold of you, could you please run down a list of ways to do so?
Sure. So they can go to opalstruth.com, and I'll have my prices on there for readings, as well as an email that they can email me, or they can just like my page on Facebook and shoot me a message there. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. You can search Opal's Truth in Facebook, and if it doesn't come up, then just Google Opal's Truth, and it will for sure come up.
Okay, very good. And listeners, of course, in this episode's detailed show notes, all of Dylan's contact points will be there with clickable links. Anything else you'd like to say, Dylan, before we bring it to a close?
Nope. Other than that, it was an honor to do this, and I appreciate the call on Skype.
All right, yeah, thank you. Okay, well, with that, Katie Nhyte, take us home.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the SOS-Radio Podcast. Search SOS-Radio Podcast on iTunes and give us a rating. Download our free mobile app by searching Supernatural Occurrence Studies on Google Play, Apple App Store, and Amazon App Store. Visit us online for ghostly photos that coincide with our podcasts, videos, and other exclusive content at SOS-Radio.com, ChicagoSOS.com, and SupernaturalOccurrenceStudies.com. Follow us on Facebook at SOS-Radio.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chicago Ghosts. Subscribe to the Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies YouTube channel for exclusive video content. Follow Jason Nhyte on Google+. That's Nhyte, Nhyte. Email us at submissions@sos-radio.com and call or text anytime at 872-529-SOS. That's Chicago's area code, 872-529-0767.
And as always, kind listeners, keep your head up, eyes open, and question everything.
Want to save your soul from hell, riding on our range. Cowboy, change your ways today. Oh. With us you will ride. At the devil's herd.